Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir. Mesdames et messieurs, je vous souhaite la bienvenue à la cérémonie de dévoilement du portrait officiel du 45e président du Sénat, l'honorable George Furey. Welcome to the unveiling ceremony of the official portrait of the 45th Speaker of the Senate, the Honorable George Furey. My name is Nancy Antil. I'm the Chief Protocol of Parliament, and I'm happy to be your Master of Ceremonies today. To begin this very special event, I would like to invite the designated elder, Mr. Fred McGregor from the Algonquin Nation, to offer a blessing. J'invite maintenant Monsieur Fred McGregor à offrir une bénédiction. Elder McGregor.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here, and I was asked to come out and help, and this is a very momentous occasion. So I'll start it off as this. I get everyone to stand, please. Start it off as Kishavanido. Nuena Guch Tangshibiga Chonjanogo. Tangshibiga Ningine say Ningine Semen. Kakanash King Gajichigay, Gijichigay Onjamaguch. Kakanaguch King Bamadzin Kaiton Onjama, Nuena Guch Tangshimigach. Kakanaguch King Gajichigayan. On J. Anungshuk, the big keys, the skis, Kakanaguch King Gaiton Onjama Key. Kakanaguch Pimadzuin, Kaiton Onjama King. No, I'm done on a King Gajichigayan on Jenny, the window Onjamagach. I said Kakanaguchi Kaitoyan, CB Saigon Kakanaguch. Kaitek. Nuegus Tangshimi Wetch on J. Wagan, a Shiji Pog, and a Shij Kramagoz and Carno Sodom watch. Onshimagach, Kaijichige, or Jonshman, who I'm done on Kaijichige on J. Nakiminan. The Nagjutuna on the Dakimnan, the Zaktuna on. One way in the which be Madziang Onshimagach, he can't on King Gajichigayan. Nongom, the Mam do say, man, Ganigan each Kajan Kajan George Furey. Ginigan each a Gichi or Dumtow and Oshaman or Gishquai can, and Hogivido Quan or each Bimadzian Oshamagach, eyeing Kajan Kadig, Mekanak Minitic, Aje Ogishquai can or Nigans doing. So the Mam do say, man. So in Abigus, Gidanagajig. Gidanagajig or a Kainai Kosem in Oshamagach and Gidanagdo George, because Ozus son need now the Awan, the Quay manages up an Ojish and this were Gonsham, which the way which Chimigretch. And the blessing is this, it's for all that is given and for all that we see. We give thanks. We give thanks for all the stuff that is here in terms of the drum, the pipe, and for those that follow. And for every living thing that is here, and that we all gather for the person that is here, which is George Furey. He's taken the responsibility, and he's now coming to a close for that responsibility, and it's not a small responsibility, but he's done this for a number of, I understand, 23 to 24 years. And this is for all of Canada, and also he's at the forefront in the terms of at the Senate. And this is part of Canadian history. But he gathers here today, and the blessing is for him as well as his family, his wife, and all the grandchildren. And now that he finishes this one portion, that he may make it transition into that responsibility, because he was tapped on one side and he accepted. And going to the other shoulder, he's lived through all of this, and now we tap him on the other shoulder. He has now finished this responsibility. And what we know of him, he has done considerable decision-making along with fellow senators and fellow politicians. So this responsibility he has not taken lightly, and he has performed in also being a first senator from Labrador and Newfoundland. It's a first for many, and when I look around the audience as well, as I see first for a lot of, for Aboriginal here as well. So with this is a very good gathering for a senator. So I'd say miigwech, and I think Canada is in good hands. Miigwech.
Please be seated. Thank you very much, Elder McGregor. I would like to invite to the podium the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. J'invite le Premier ministre du Canada, M. Justin Trudeau, à nous adresser la parole. Monsieur le Premier ministre.
Merci Nancy. Bonjour tout le monde. I want to begin by doing something we didn't do earlier. Let's give a big round of applause to the very talented Paige Asta for that rendition of the national anthem. Thank you, Elder McGregor, for starting us off in the right way. It's great to see so many people out here today. Karen, and children, Megan, Rebecca, David, Premier Furey, grandchildren, so many members of the family, of the Furey family here. Je vois également ici les ministres O'Regan, Leblanc, Macaulay, Hussein, entre autres. Et surtout, Monsieur le Président Furey, George, merci. Merci pour toutes ces années de service aux Canadiens. You started off as an educator, a profession I know well. You spoke of your love of educating and empowering students to think critically, to care deeply about the world around them. Ces valeurs vous ont porté tout au long de votre carrière diversifiée et accomplie. Vous vous êtes dévoué à la démocratie et à cette institution, le Sénat, qui est une institution démocratique fondamentale du Canada. Comme sénateur et au fil des 7 années où vous avez été président du Sénat du Canada, vous avez veillé à ce que notre Chambre haute soit centrée sur les enjeux importants pour les Canadiens. These past 7.5 years haven't been without a couple of small tweaks to the Senate. The transformation of the Senate that required a steady hand and clear eye and strong leadership to understand that this place that you've served in for so many years was filled with extraordinary people dedicated to serving their communities and their country, and that it needed to continue to do so in a way that offered the very best ways to contribute to the work that all parliamentarians do, but mostly this country that matters so much. And the challenges of leadership in this context looked easy for you, because you have always led with a level of compassion, understanding, and openness and rigor that was both reassuring in a time of changing institutions, but also inspiring as people stepped up to give their very, very best in service, not just to their home communities and their regions, but their country. One can't talk about your commitment to this country without underlining that every step of the way you are an extraordinary representative in Newfoundland and Labrador. You've lived many lives, but you've never forgotten where you came from. You are a proud son of Newfoundland and Labrador, and never miss an occasion to remind us all of that exact fact. When the Senate moved to its beautiful temporary home here, you had pitcher plants engraved right into the top of the Speaker of the Senate's chair. And I hear you never miss a chance to point out that stunning scene on the bronze panel over there, yes. depicts none other than Cape Race on the eastern shores of your home province. I know you miss Newfoundland and Labrador and are looking forward to going back to St. John, spending more time with your kids and grandkids and enjoying summer in Holyrood. But we'll miss you here in Ottawa too, deeply. Though, whenever we miss you too much, we'll be able to miss your portrait painted right here by the great Newfoundland and artist Grant Boland. And it will hang right here alongside Kings and Queens. Somehow appropriate for you, George. Merci pour ton service, mon ami. Your leadership that understood the depths to which true leadership is about service was an inspiration to a chamber filled with leaders and a country filled with people looking to serve. It's been an honor serving alongside you, learning from you, and calling you a friend. Merci, George.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Le président de la Chambre des communes, l'honorable Anthony Rota, prendra maintenant la parole. I invite the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Honorable Anthony Rota.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Prime Minister, fellow parliamentarians, distinguished guests, Mesdames et Messieurs, Ani Bojo, Anthony Rota Ndishnikas, Nipissing Timiskaming Donjiba. Je suis heureux d'être ici parmi vous pour cette cérémonie spéciale en l'honneur d'un collègue et ami, le président George Furey. A father, a grandfather, a generous man, a true statesman and proud Newfoundlander, Speaker Furey served as the 45th Speaker in the Senate, the first from Newfoundland and Labrador. Mr. Speaker, in your inaugural speech following your appointment to the chair in December 2015, you mentioned that the Senate was entering uncharted waters. Indeed, it has been your duty to oversee the historic transition that has taken place in the Senate over the past few years. I can't think of anyone better placed than a proud Newfoundlander to lead the Senate through waters that can be choppy or even stormy at times, to bring fellow travelers to a safe harbor. Mr. Speaker, over 7 years you have taken care of this great ship, the Senate of Canada, and you've done it brilliantly. Every debate needs a moderator, and even if the decorum in the Red Chamber isn't quite the same, and sometimes a little different from the chamber that I preside over, Canada's Senate is no exception to needing that special person. Speaker Furey, you have done an outstanding job respecting tradition while innovating at times when the Senate was going through significant changes. Your achievements are many, but let me mention just a few of them. During a time of fundamental change, you made insightful contributions to the debate about the role of the Senate in Canada's parliamentary democracy. In 2017, you presided over the 150th anniversary of the first sitting of the Senate of Canada, plus all the celebrations surrounding the 150th anniversary of Confederation. You oversaw the closure and decommission of the Senate chamber in Central Block and the move to this temporary yet beautiful space. Now, I often look at it and I wonder whether we got the short end of the stick on that, but I'm not going to start that one. You also guided the Senate through the challenges of working remotely and then in hybrid fashion during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Speaker, you have been extensively involved in parliamentary diplomacy, hosting foreign delegates in Canada, and conducting no fewer than 26 diplomatic voyages to foreign countries across the globe. I had the opportunity to join you for some of these visits, and I will treasure the last one we had, which was in Australia in January. Together, as speakers, we presided over several joint addresses of Parliament. Last year, we virtually welcomed President Volodymyr Zelensky to Canada from Ukraine. And this year, we welcomed Her Excellency, President of the European Commission, and the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Lors de nos nombreuses rencontres avec nos parlementaires et alliés, ici et dans le monde, j'ai pu constater tout votre dévouement envers notre pays. Ce sont des qualités admirables et qui méritent toute notre reconnaissance. S'il est vrai que les portraits démontrent les caractères uniques de chaque président, on y verra dans votre la sagesse, la justice, la gentillesse et l'empathie. Sans oublier le petit sentiment dans les yeux qui est tout à fait terneuvien. Today, we're not only saying farewell to the Speaker of the Senate, we also bid farewell to its longest-serving member, who has served as a distinguished senator for almost 25 years. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleagues in the House of Commons, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your commitment to the Senate, your service to Canada, and your guidance to all of us parliamentarians who have honored and had the honor of serving with you and for you. Chantal and I wish you all a well-deserved retirement with your wife, Karen, who we got to know quite well and we think is wonderful, and all your children, grandchildren, and friends. Bonne retraite, mon ami.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would now like to invite the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador and son of Speaker Furey, the Honourable Andrew Furey, to say a few words.
Well, thank you so much, Prime Minister, members of the Senate, members of Parliament, distinguished guests, my friend the Minister, welcome. My friends, we have all heard that much lauded ideal known as the American dream: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But what is the Canadian dream? Our country is not that American melting pot. It's a tapestry of beautifully different pieces woven together. We each contribute a stitch or a pattern, an opinion or a debate. Yet collectively, we are woven together in the art that is Canada. My father was not born a Canadian. Like many in Newfoundland and Labrador, he is a first-generation Canadian, born before Confederation in 1949. And as a result, his views and debates often had a different lens and helped shape many family conversations. Like the Prime Minister, I got a front row seat to politics growing up and the pursuit of that collective dream of Canada. It happened at our family's dinner table, a place that was often its own micro House of Commons, which I'm sure was easier to navigate than the current. Issues and current events were discussed and debated, opinions drawn out and argued for and against, and even the occasional empathetic scooping of potatoes to make a definitive point. A place where campaigns were imagined, where the tenets of democracy were at their simplest and their purest, with everyday people discussing the greater good for all people. Change being imagined, change being actioned. Now, I'm sure, Prime Minister, you can also attest to the fact that when it comes to politics, a situation like this is an education like no other. My father was never the loudest voice in that room or currently in any room. That was because he didn't need to be. His thoughts and opinions were only offered after a methodical dissection of both sides and weighing the pros and the cons and the consequences, both short and long term. The pursuit for the right path, the most informed and balanced decision. That has guided him through his entire life. Through a career as a teacher and principal in classrooms throughout Newfoundland and Labrador, to completing a law degree at Dalhousie University and practicing law while raising a family, to the federal stage and spending 24 years in the Canadian Senate, now retiring as its 45th Speaker. Back in March, I watched, as I'm sure all you did, as President Biden was greeted by our government's dignitaries as he arrived on Parliament Hill. A powerful moment for all Canadians. The first, though, in that lineup, with his characteristic smile and beaming with absolute pride, was the Speaker of the Senate and my father, George Furey. From members of the royal family to prime ministers and heads of state from around the globe, my father has met with, dined with, even shared a drink with some extraordinary company. But ever the modest one, you'd never hear him drop a name or saying anything out of turn about anyone, ever. That's no doubt the Newfoundland and Labrador in him. It's not modesty so much as it is a subconscious avoidance of what people back home call being grand. And that's not Dad for sure. Growing up in a large East Coast family, Dad learned early on that the only path forward is through hard work. His mother taught him that, and I'm sure she is smiling down now with a gigantic grin. She pretty much raised the 8 kids on her own to make ends meet, and she had the kids stay at the local orphanage while choosing to work there too, so she could remain close. From those cold stones of Mount Cashel to the halls of the Canadian Senate, Dad's journey has been extraordinary. It is a long shadow to walk in. But for me, it's never about living up to his expectations or trying to reach or exceed some bar he set, because he's not like that. All his life, he quietly led by example, offered advice when asked, never judged when things went wrong, never imposed a direction, just offered a map, knowing that we would find our way. I can't think of anyone's counsel I treasure more. Every single decision in my life, be that medical school or stepping into politics myself, was made with my dad's voice in my head and his commitment in my heart. This may sound a little selfish to admit, but all my life it feels like I've shared Dad with so many others, whether it was his colleagues or students, the many cases and causes he embraced, and very much the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. But what sacrifices he had in time away with work, he brought back tenfold in attention with love to his family and friends. I couldn't be prouder of what he has accomplished and the fact that his grandkids get to see it all too. The example he sets for all Canadians is that no matter where you come from, no matter what people think you should be or should do, that you have it in you to carve your own path, to be your own person, to treat everyone with respect, no matter if you're shaking hands with princes, presidents, or people on the street, to be the fabric of something that is greater than ourselves. Maybe that togetherness is the Canadian dream itself, although to this day, I'm still not sure. I think it may be the pursuit of being Canadian itself is in fact the dream. But I do know this. Your speaker, my dad's journey, captures what it means to be Canadian. Not because of the outcome, which we all stand in awe of here today, but because he did so with quiet dignity, poise, and grace. And I can think of nothing more Canadian than that. As the 14th Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, and as a son and father myself, I'm honored and bursting with pride to know and love the man in this portrait. My mentor, my best friend, my father, Senator George Furey.
Merci. Thank you, Premier Furey. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to proceed with the unveiling of the portrait of the 45th Speaker of the Senate. Monsieur le Premier ministre, Monsieur le Président, à vous l'honneur de dévoiler le portrait. L'artiste pour le portrait du 45e président du Sénat est M. Grant Boland. His portraits of premiers, lieutenant governors, and speakers are on display in the corridors of Newfoundland and Labrador's House of Assembly. The portrait of Speaker Furey is Mr. Boland's first work on permanent display on Parliament Hill. Mr. Boland, if you could please stand. Thank you. It is my honor to call upon the 45th Speaker of the Senate of Canada, the Honourable George Furey, to say a few words. Il me fait grand plaisir d'inviter au podium l'honorable George Furey.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, Speaker Rota, Excellencies, fellow parliamentarians, distinguished guests. It is with both a profound sense of pride and humility that I stand before you today. Today for me is not about making a grandiose speech. Rather, it is a time for humility and gratitude. For it is far beyond my ability to put into words how humbling this is to stand here today and have a portrait unveiled that will hang in the halls of our Canadian Parliament for years to come. Throughout my life, I have always tried to be mindful of my many blessings that God has bestowed on me, and I thank God every day for the gifts of love of family and love of friends. Je voudrais prendre un moment pour exprimer ma profonde gratitude à tous ceux et celles qui m'ont soutenu tout au long de ma carrière. From my family and friends to my colleagues in the Senate, I could not have achieved this milestone without your unwavering encouragement, support, and guidance. To my wonderful wife, Karen, who has been steadfast and loving for 51 years. I, more than anyone, know that this hasn't been easy for her. Your unwavering support and dedication have been the bedrock of my career, or should I say careers. You have been there for me every step of the way, offering encouragement and strength during the toughest of times, and sharing in my joy during the best of times. You have been an inspiration to me, and I cannot thank you enough for all that you have done for me. At a very young age, I dragged you away from your family and friends to be a public health nurse in some of the more difficult parts of our province while I taught school. Then less than 10 years later, with 2 small children, you abandoned your nursing career to travel to Nova Scotia so I could attend law school. And that wasn't the end of it. A number of years later, you abandoned your second career as a music teacher so I could join the Senate. And through it all, you never once uttered a word of complaint about any of it. Karen, you're my very soul. And I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done and continue to do for me. To my children, Andrew, Megan, Rebecca, and David, your love, your support, and your encouragement have been a constant source of pride and motivation. Your unconditional love has sustained me through the ups and downs of public life. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for the sacrifices you have made throughout my political career. I know that my work often kept me away from home and away from important family events, and you have never complained. I'm eternally grateful to have you all in my life and for the privilege of being called your dad. And to my beautiful grandchildren, Maggie, Sarah, Luke, Rachel, Adam, Mark, and Matthew, what can a grandfather say? You always make me so proud of everything you do. Thank you for your love and understanding, and yes, you will see more of me screaming at your recitals and sports and family events. And Karen and I have been so blessed as well with Andrew's Allison, Megan's Ben, Rebecca's Mike, and now David's Kerry. I wish to thank the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien for the honour and privilege of being summoned to the Senate nearly 24 years ago. And I want to thank my good friend Brian Tobin for his encouragement and support of my nomination back then as well. And to our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, thank you, Prime Minister, for the confidence you placed in me by appointing me the 45th Speaker of the Senate. It has been such an extraordinary honour and privilege to serve the Senate and indeed Canadians in this very prestigious role. I know how hectic your schedule is, Prime Minister, and it's such a special honour that you're here with us today. Thank you very much. To my esteemed colleagues in the Senate, thank you. Throughout my years as Speaker, I have consistently drawn upon your steadfast commitment to the betterment of the Red Chamber. Your unwavering dedication has served as a constant source of inspiration to me, even during the most arduous of circumstances. It is thanks to your collective support and encouragement that I was able to carry out this duty to a level I hope was befitting of our august chamber. When the Prime Minister appointed me as Speaker, the Senate had an independent appointments process which sent us well into uncharted waters. Today, 7.5 years later, it is a blossoming success with representatives from all walks of life, from Indigenous groups, from minorities and regions, and today even, after 156 years, gender parity. It has been an honor indeed in the past 7.5 years to have overseen and assisted this great work in progress. I wish to also extend a big thank you to all those in our Senate family who make our work here possible. Dans les coulisses de chaque événement, de chaque activité et de chaque séance, que ce soit la Chambre, en comité ou dans la vie de tous les jours, nous, les sénateurs, sommes très chanceux d'avoir un personnel aussi dévoué. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the artist, Grant Boland, for his wonderful work in bringing this portrait to life. Grant is one of Newfoundland and Labrador's preeminent artists and well known for his extraordinary work. I know that countless hours have been spent perfecting every brushstroke and detail, and I'm deeply grateful for the passion that has gone into this project. Oscar Wilde said of the portrait of Dorian Gray that every portrait that is painted with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not the sitter. The sitter is merely an accident, while the painter reveals himself. I have to tell you, Grant, I think you did a great job, considering what you had to work with. But if anyone else here doesn't think so, according to Oscar Wilde, I'm sorry, my friend, that's all on you. Thank you, Grant. Thank you for what you've done here today. You're such an exceptional artist, and we're all so proud of you as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And again, I would please ask you to stand and take a round of applause. Not only as a Speaker of the Senate, but also as a Senator, I have had the privilege of serving alongside some of the most talented and dedicated individuals in our great country, Canada. And as I return to my beloved home province of Newfoundland and Labrador, I shall reflect on the tremendous responsibility that comes with holding public office, and what an honor it has been to serve. I believe that serving in public office is a noble calling, a vocation that requires a deep commitment to the values of democracy and a willingness to work tirelessly for the good of the people whom we represent. Throughout my career, I have always strived to live up to this ideal. Parliamentarians, after all, are entrusted with the power to make decisions that impact the lives of millions of people on a daily basis, and therefore, they must always be mindful of the weight of that responsibility. A responsibility that from time to time will require parliamentarians to rise above partisan bickering for the good of those we serve, for the good of democracy, and indeed for the good of Canada as a whole. Je sais que je parle au nom de tous mes collègues lorsque je dis à quel point c'est un honneur de servir au Sénat et de servir la population de ce grand pays. Nous nous inscrivons dans une grande tradition qui remonte au premier jour de notre projet de démocratie. But in the end, it is all of us, all Canadians, who are the stewards of our nation's future, and who are charged with the task of preserving the values and ideals that have helped shape our country and will continue to shape our country into the future. Protecting democracy and continuing to make Canada a better place to live is a goal well worth striving for. It is a goal we will achieve, all of us working together. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Speaker Furey. Avant de conclure la partie formelle du dévoilement, j'aimerais remercier les membres de la suite officielle pour leur participation à cet événement et tous ceux qui ont collaboré à l'organisation de la cérémonie. In a few moments, you'll be invited to join the Speaker of the Senate in the foyer just behind you for a reception. Une réception suivra après l'hymne royal. I would ask that you please stand for the singing of the royal anthem. Thank you for your presence. Merci.
Dieu so